Mickey 7 is a science fiction novel written by Edward Ashton and published in February of 2022. It was highly praised upon its release, but unknown to Edward at that time was that his novel caught the attention of well-renowned South Korean director Bong Joon-Ho, famous for his movies that usually come with some type of social or political commentary. So Bong Joon-Ho has been on quite the winning streak internationally with his movies. When he discovered the idea of human printing from Mickey 7, he immediately signed on to tackle the film adaptation, albeit with some small changes. The title of the movie had changed from Mickey 7 to Mickey 17. Bong Joon-Ho thought 7 Mickeys wasn't enough to tell the story he wanted to, so he bumped up the number to 17 to flesh out the character a little more, and to that effect it worked out great. Especially when we could see more Robert Pattinson, who plays the role of Mickey Barnes, really go all out in these different iterations of the character throughout the movie. At the time of this review, the movie has finally seen its theatrical release. So with the movie now out there for everyone to see, what did I think of the sci-fi comedy experience that was Mickey 17? Hey there again, everybody. Sorry that I've kept you waiting, but hey, I am DatChickenWang of the ChickenWang gang, and I'm here to give my review for Bong Joon-Ho's latest theatrical release featuring Robert Pattinson titled Mickey 17. So before I really get into this review, I gotta preface it by saying that despite this being a Bong Joon-Ho film, don't expect this to be along the lines of Parasite. Like, Parasite was a lot more grounded in reality, and this is a bombastic sci-fi film. So as long as you're going in knowing that, then I think you might have a pretty good time. So let's get to it. The movie starts out with Mickey Barnes and his best friend Timo, played by Steven Yeun. These two are sadly just a bunch of losers who got caught up with the wrong people and have no real way to get themselves out of this situation with these sadistic loan sharks they owe money to. So instead of trying to get the money back to these people so they can go on with their daily lives, they instead opt to join an exploration starship colony just to get off of Earth. Timo has enough skills to be of use as a pilot, but sadly Mickey doesn't have any real skills that could be of practical use in this expedition. Realizing this, he signs up to be an expendable, meaning that he'll be brought back to life over and over again once one of him dies, and reprinted to do more crazy tasks that aren't meant for non-expendables. So contrary to the trailers that I saw that were selling this movie as more of a sci-fi comedy, going into Mickey 17, I was starting to realize that there is comedy in this, but it is very dark. Like, the trailers had him dying in one way, and then went a hard cut to another way that he died, and then it showed them disposing of his body, and then another hard cut to another death. But in this movie, you actually get to see the different ways that he's dying, and they draw those out, and they ask him to do some crazy things while he's dying, like, can you explain what you're feeling? Can you let us know when you go blind? I'm like, man, this is sick. These people, I know he's doing what he's doing for the greater good of humanity, but man, they put him through the ringer in this. One day while out on an expedition to find a creature known as a creeper, Mickey finds himself in a situation where he actually manages to get out alive and return to the ship. Unfortunately for him, the team assumed he had already died while out and about, which means we are now faced with the paradox of multiples when Mickey returns to the ship. This becomes one of the major plots of the movie due to multiples being deemed as bad for reasons the movie will go into later. But now that we have two Mickeys on board, both with seemingly slightly different personalities, how will things balance out in the end? And see, this is why I love Robert Pattinson in this movie. It's because this guy has some incredible range that he's been just showing off in all these other, like, off-key movies he's been doing, from Good Time to The Lighthouse to being Bruce Wayne and Batman even. Like, this guy is just out here showing up in all these other different movies, and he is just killing it. And the way that he's portraying Mickey in this one, like, he's playing the dual roles, but he's doing one version of Mickey kind of like country bumpkin, it almost sounds like, and then he has the other one who's just like, ooh, I'm rough and I'm rugged, but they both still work very well in the grand scheme of things, so hats off to Robert Pattinson definitely in this. As far as others in the main cast, Nasha, played by Naomi Ackie, plays a very hardened but also soft around the edges type of character when it comes to Mickey. She loves him for who he is and puts herself in compromising positions just for him. As we get to the climax of the film is where her character shines the most, and I thought she was great in this. I mean, she was also the only person that was happy about there being two Mickeys for, reasons. So even though there are other big name actors carrying this movie, something that surprised me was that they actually allowed some of the side characters to breathe, and even though they don't have a lot of major parts in this movie, the parts they do have are very impactful, and it helps make it feel like everyone here and there is contributing to making this movie actually work. And just some of the other characters who come out of the war work like near the end of the movie, they're unexpected, but you're like, hey, I'm rooting for you. You're doing a good job. Keep it up. And then you have these insufferable sacks of bruh. So Toni Collette and Mark Ruffalo, they are just straight up Saturday morning cartoon villains here. And I gotta be honest, like, in some of the interactions they had at first, like, I kind of liked them. I kind of thought they were funny, but then they start to make their intentions known, and like, yeah, they are just the worst. And I'm not sure if it was direction from Bong Joon-Ho or if this was something that Mark Ruffalo tended to do or satirize somebody, but he is pretty much satirizing a political figure that I'm sure a lot of us are tired of hearing about in the news cycle right now, and he does a great job at it. And by the end of the movie, like, I couldn't wait for him to get what was coming to him. Let me just say that. Okay, but villains aside, I gotta appreciate the cinematography in this movie. This isn't Bong Joon-Ho's first post-apocalyptic movie involving an icy locale, especially when you throw a movie like Snowpiercer into the mix. Even the look of being in space early on before the colony reached the ice planet of Niflheim, they really brought the locale from Mickey 7 to life here. Oh man. And I'm sorry, but I'm just thinking about how pretty and beautiful this movie looks in certain spots. Like, the sets are great. They have places where the working class people are and they just look gross and grimy, almost like a prison facility. And then you have the place where the higher ups live and reside, and those places are like just gaudy and just full of gross chandeliers and just like, ugh. It really puts a contrast on like the people at the top and people at the bottom from the very start of the movie. And also, even though this takes place on an ice planet and there are indeed some CGI creatures that you see interacting with the characters in the movie, they don't really look that bad. In fact, like, I was expecting them to just look like CGI abominations, but they're actually kind of cute in their own weird way. So, yeah, movie looks great. For a movie that's just slightly over 2 hours, we see him go through a lot during that initial runtime, but you can kind of tell near the end of the movie that we were starting to stretch things out a wee bit more than we should have. So then we get to the pacing of the movie, and while I really don't hate it, it started to kind of feel like things were starting to drag close to the end or the final act of the movie, because we get reintroduced to the reason why Mickey's even being on this ship in the first place, and it kind of felt like it was unimportant or not even needed, because by this point in the movie, we'd forgotten about it completely, and then it's brought back up again. They make a situation out of it, and then it's just kind of handled very quickly off screen later. And like, also the lead up to the final confrontation, that felt like it went on way longer than it needed to, especially when they had characters kind of dragging things out intentionally. But aside from that, I just kind of wish it was a little bit shorter. It would have done wonders for me. And hey, that's my review for Mickey 17. I enjoyed it very much, and man, my only regret is I didn't go see it on a bigger screen in a bigger theater. I went to the local theater to go support them, but the screen was very dark and dim, and this movie looks like it feels like it demands to be seen on a much bigger screen. So if you get a chance, IMAX, if it's available, definitely go give it a watch. Like I said, I had some issues with the pacing near the end of the movie, but that overall didn't take away from my enjoyment. You might get a little bit more out of it if you go in there expecting it to be a commentary on certain things and not just a straight up action comedy sci-fi movie. So yeah, go in there with tempered expectations. I think you'll enjoy the movie, and I hope you have a good time if you do. And with that, I'm giving Mickey 17 7 out of 11 chicken wings. It's a very solid, fun, and oftentimes surprisingly emotional film. A few things prevent it from being absolutely great in my opinion, but I enjoyed it nevertheless, and despite not giving it a higher rating, would still recommend checking out on the biggest screen you can find if you're still interested. Thank you kindly for taking time out of your busy day to listen to my review for Mickey 17. More reviews coming since I have a backlog now. But if you have any compliments, criticisms, or advice, please let me know in the comments. Hopefully if you made it this far, I've earned a like or a sub from you, so thanks again for coming through, and I'll see you for the next one. Yo yo!